Premamaya Tanu Gadādhara Pandit Prabhu ki Jai. Transcendental Tirubhav Mahārāja Shri Śrīla Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki Jai. Sakam Gosai Śrīla Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki Jai. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, Savior of the whole world, ki Jai. Lord Padmanabha. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandava pranams and my Śrīpāda at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa, Avadhūta Śrīla, A.C. Bhaktivedānta, Swami Mahārāja, Śrīla Prabhupada, who fulfilled the prediction of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, that a person who will come in the future will bring the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole world. And who is that? Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami?
Śrīla Prabhupada.
Everyone. Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami?
Śrīla Prabhupada.
Ki
Jai.
So tired of all you are. Say again, all together, very loudly, Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai.
Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai.
So I'm equally offering my unlimited Dandava pranams, my Shraddha Pushpāṇjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Siksha Gurudevs, who drowned the whole world in Gaur Prem, Gaur Nam, Gaur Dham, Gaur Kam. That is, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa Asvatarasata Shri Śrīla Bhakti Raksha Shri Goswami Maharaj. And Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa Asvatarasata Shri Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Narayana Goswami Mahārāja ki Śrīla Gurudeva ki Śrīla Bhakti Raksha Shri Goswami Maharaj ki Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj ki Śrīpāda Guruvara ki Gaur Pramanande. My Dandava pranams at the lotus feet of all my Sri Śrīpāda Guruvara. And my Dandava pranams, especially on this transcendental disappearance day of Śrīla Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, I offer my unlimited, most lowly obeisances at his divine lotus feet. I pray for his causeless mercy, that I can speak even one tiny, minuscule, atomic particle of his glories on this sacred holy day. Here at Surabhi-kuñja, where Śrīla Bhaktivinoda personally wrote his books, did his bhajan, lived here, and then in his latter years he moved to Surabhi-kuñja, where he spent his final years. So I'm remembering his lotus feet and praying that I can speak something, because his glories were so unlimited. But where to begin? Where to begin? I think I have to begin with myself. Because if Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura would not have come into this world, if Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura would not have written his books, would not have started this mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the modern day, if Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura had not brought into this world Śrīla Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura, who carried out the full development of his spiritual mission to save the entire world, if that divine personality and his divine disciples, especially Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada, had not taken his order to to come to the whole world and preach this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his servants, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj, Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Mahārāja Goswami Maharaj. And they had not come and given Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in the line of Śrīla Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Where would I be? I'd just be wandering in the unlimited species of life, suffering like a dog, an insect, an animal, and not knowing anything who I am. But because Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura came into this world, being sent directly by the Supreme Lord Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu to this world, the personal associate of Śrīpāda and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, the personal servant in the line of Sri Rupamanjari, Kamalamanjari, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. If he had not come to this world, the world would not know about Krishna. The world would not know the Mahamantra. This Kali Yuga would be a very, very fearful time. But it is no longer a fearful time for those of us that have taken shelter in this line of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura called Bhaktivinoda. It is an unbreakable stream, a flowing river, the Bhaktivinoda. We are in this line. And the Bhaktivinoda Saraswati, we are in this line from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura. So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, there's so much about his biography and his life. I read all of that yesterday, very, very extensive, especially Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Mahārāja in his book, The Associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very lengthy. And I read other talk also of our Gurudev of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj. But really, I want to say that Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura was so full of compassion. And on this day, we have to try to deeply contemplate that. That's the real worship of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura on this day. Not just some flowers and Buddha. The real worship of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura is to try to enter some little tiny, to enter into the mood of his body, what he gave. But his body is like a vast ocean. It's more than a vast ocean. It's like millions of oceans. But our Gurudev told that Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura was so expert that he took that ocean of all the teachings of the Goswamis, of all the literature coming down in this line, Brahma-Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava, Sampradaya, and he compiled one book in which he put the whole ocean into a small pot. Do you know what the name of that book is? Gadādhara. Our Gurudev, of anyone, he used to glorify Gadādhara. He used to say again and again and again about how he read it 100 times. Of course, he translated it also into the Hindi language from the Bengali. Yes. And he used to say, do you know why I can answer any question? Because I read Gadādhara 100 times, that's why. So on this day, we all have to vow in front of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, right here at Surabhi-kuñja. Every single one of you, put your hand on your heart and vow this year, before next Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's Disappearance Day Festival in 2024. Everyone's afraid to put their hand on their heart. I can see that. But don't be afraid, because this is not a difficult thing to do. It will be very good for you. But if you take a vow, then you'll do it. So here's the vow. I will read Gadādhara from cover to cover this year to honor and worship Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Say that.
Yes.
I will worship Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura
I will worship Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura
this
year
by reading his Gadādhara from cover to cover.
Reading his Gadādhara from cover to cover.
I vow this on this day.
I vow this on this day.
You're stuck, Prabhu. You've got no wiggle room now. You've got to do it. Also me. I have to do it also. Not so easy, because I'm reading so many different. But really, I should be reading Gadādhara and all the other books as well. So I'm going to make a concerted effort this coming year to read all of the books that have been published in English language of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. So, we all knew about Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, and I want to say that the day that I came out of the womb, which womb? Not the material mother's womb, the day that I entered into Śrīla Prabhupāda's temple in 1970, August 3rd, in the evening time, just before the Gaur Arti. And I was coming for the first time to the temple, but I had met devotees before publicly, in public places. And now I came with the objective to stay. And at that time, I became very overjoyed that I was with the devotees in the temple. And they said, come with us. Made me take a cold shower. Then they brought me into the brahmacharya ashram, which was just this curtain across the room. Now, they put tilak on me. They even put me in gopins. And they gave me a dhoti and a t-shirt and said, come with us now. Then I went into the temple room, and they said, when you walk into the temple room, it was in the middle of the Gaur Arti. And the whole temple room was just completely rattling and shaking from about 30 devotees jumping up and down. They said, when you come into the temple, you pay your obeisances. And then I did that, and then I looked up, and who did I see? Lord Jagannath, big, smiling, Baladev, Subhadra. And then I looked at all the devotees. And what were they singing? Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Sane Aroti Kishora Everything in my life and all the other devotees who joined the Hare Krishna movement in the early 70s or late 60s, everything in our life was chanting the Mahamantra, chanting the Paṇḍita mantra. We didn't even have Jayarama song at that time. We didn't even have Yashamati Nanda and Prajapadananda at that time. But then gradually they were introduced. Jayavadhūta, written by who? Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Then the Vaishnava songbook came out for the first edition, and it had Bhaktivinoda, Gadādhara, by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. So in this way, from morning till evening, not just the Hare Krishna movement around the world, but also here in India, the whole Holy Month, they sing the songs of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Ṭhākura ordered no other songs are to be sung. Only the songs of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and Śrīla Gadādhara. So, the contribution of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura in terms of the sadhana, achara of the devotional community, it began right from the first days that the Hare Krishna mantra came and hit the shores of the United States of America. But prior to that, the person who brought it to the Western world, the disciple of Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Ṭhākura, our Śrīpāda, Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. He was fully absorbed in the transcendental Vani of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, especially as heard through the lotus mouth of his Guru Maharaj, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati. Completely absorbed in that. And he embodied the mood. What was the mood of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura? Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, in all of his instructions, this is told by Bhaktivinoda Saraswati, that whatever instructions he ever gave, he personally followed all of them. There was no difference. He personally applied in his own life all the instructions that he would later give in his books. So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, we all know how he was a magistrate in Gadādhara, and when you read his biography, you see how he moved all around the country to so many different places, especially in Bengal, many places. He went on pilgrimages also. But he was an employee of the government, the British government at the time. And he was also, went to the schools, the English schools of the British government, and describes in his biography some conversations that he had with various teachers, some of them from his earlier schooling, some of them from his later schooling. He had conversations with them, and they all appreciated it very much. Do you know when Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote his first poem? His first poem? Do you know when Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote his first poem? When he was 2 years old. 2 years old. By the time he was 6 years old, he knew verbatim practically the whole Mahārāja and Ramayana. Bhaktivedānta says, is this possible for a 6-year-old boy to know this? No, that's not possible. Not by just normal scholarship, no. It was realized. Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's books are not theoretical knowledge. Everything he wrote, he realized. Complete realization. His books are astonishing, absolutely astonishing. Over the years, as I've been introduced to so many more books that I didn't know since I came to Gaudiya that were written by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, or commentaries of his, like Manasitra, Shastram, Vajan Rahasya, inwardly beautifully expressed that no one can fail to be delighted, absolutely delighted, when they read Bhaktivinoda's words. I know, because I've tested it many, many times. Even if you just open up any book of his, anywhere in his book, and you start reading, it's so sublime, so sublime. Oh, Harinam Chintamani, Shri Krishna Samhita. The whole list is here. The whole list. It's really long. It's longer than I knew it was at the end of this article. Something like 70-something books. Also in different languages. And who knows, the English book that he wrote, especially to begin the process of sending the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole Western world. Who knows the title of that book?
Sri Chaitanya is like the precepts.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and his precepts. And in that book, how many of you have read that little book? That little book, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and precepts. Everyone add that to the vow that you just took. If you're going to read that little book, it won't take you more than 3-4 days maximum. You can even read it in 1 day. Read that book. It's so delightful. How Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura is expressing who is this person, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared in West Bengal, India, in Mayapur, Navadvip, the year 1846. He summarizes his life in such a sweet way. It wasn't long. His summarization of his life is not very long, but it's very thorough. And as you read it, you have to think to yourself how he's choosing his words, how he's going to express to Western people who never heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he's going to describe him to them, how he's going to attract them to have some interest in him. And in that book, he was very sensitive to the prevailing Western religion of that time, which was Christianity. He's very sensitive to the moods of Christians, but not only that, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura sincerely studied Christianity, Muslim religion, Torah, Buddhist. He studied these. But he liked, out of those Western religions, Western-based religions, he liked the best Christianity. You know why he liked it?
I'm guessing because there is a personal connection with God.
Exactly. Because Christianity accepts that God is the supreme person. Yes? And I have that experience in my life because I was brought up in Christianity. Very strict teachings for the first, like 9 years or 8 years of my education. We studied the Bible backwards and forwards in my grade school class every year. So we knew the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament, we knew the Old Testament, and all of that. But I had a definite conception that God is a person. But no one knew who he is. and they like to say, no man has seen God. They state that very loudly in the Bible. But I thought, how is that possible? No man has seen God. Anyway, when I met the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right, in that same year, 1970, and also 69 before that, yes, I had faith somehow or other, I had faith in the Hare Krishna mantra, even though I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know the meaning of these 16 words, Hare Krishna, but I had faith. Because it said that it's a transcendental sound vibration, and that if you chant it, your life will become divine. So I had faith there's some power in it. But when I met the devotees and I began to hear the philosophy, especially of Śrīpāda, and the devotees informed me that God Himself came on this planet 5,000 years ago. Now, by Christian calculation, they only go back about 3,500. So, well, that's interesting. Even before Christianity, before the Bible, God Himself came on this planet. Yes, He came on this planet. He's a person. Really? And what did He do? What's His name? And all that. Srila Prabhupada used to boast in his preaching to the Western world. He used to say, "We can show you God. Come to us. We will show you God because we know His name, His address, and His phone number. We can introduce you to God." And so when I learned that actually Krishna, which means the all-attractive person, is actually not only God, but He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a big, long, bunch of words. God. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to 5 words. So I had to think, what is Godhead? I never heard that word before, Godhead. But then I was informed that Godhead means the supreme transcendental position of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Supreme Person, from whom everything comes, and He can expand Himself into unlimited forms. And those unlimited forms are not different than Him. They're all eternal, indestructible, and there are innumerable numbers of those forms of Godhead. But of Godhead, He's the Supreme Personality. Where is that told? Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete Chansakala Pamsa Krishna's two. What? Krishna's two. Very good. That means you're Vaishnavas. Because you understand that Krishna is the only Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no other incarnations or any are equal to Him. And then I heard that Krishna has a beautiful form. Beautiful like a dark rain cloud. Beautiful, bluish form like a dark rain cloud. And He's effulgent and shining, more beautiful and radiant than the sun and the moon. And He's dressed so beautifully. You know, the picture in the mind of Christians is that God is a very old man with a long gray beard and long gray hair, and He's up in the clouds somewhere. Right? And when they try to paint a picture of God, they show Him with no face. Especially the Jehovah's Witnesses. And He has the job. He sits on a big throne, and the sinners are brought before Him, and He throws them into the lake of fire. And you see that illustration where they're all like, into the lake of fire. That's their conception of God. But no. God is beautiful, young, full of transcendental, sweet, beautiful qualities, unlimited, the most attractive personality in existence. So much so that if you see His beauty, you will faint. No exaggeration. You will faint. So this is Krishna. And so many more things about it. So Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he wrote Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life, and his precepts. What did he present? How did he present the precepts, the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the second part. There's two parts. Part one is life, part two is precepts. How did he present his precepts? It's a bit longer than part one. He presented the 10 essential principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. And what is that called? Das Mul Tattva. Das Mul means the 10 root principles, tattvas, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Gurudev used to glorify this Das Mul Tattva so much. He would tell us, you must study this Das Mul Tattva. And guess what Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura presented in the Gadādhara? He presented the entire Das Mul Tattva in 10 chapters. And not only that, he composed a Sanskrit shloka to describe each one of the Das Mul. But in his little book, he presented Das Mul Tattva in a very synopsized way. But he named each one of the 10 principles, and he began to describe each one of the 10 principles. And if you look at that, you carefully study that, you'll understand this really is. If someone knows the Das Mul Tattva, knows each one of the principles, then they will understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. There's so much to know about each one of the Das Mul principles. But if someone understands them, then they'll understand the absolute truth perfectly. What was Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's main scripture? What was the main scripture that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted and preached? Gadādhara. He presented Śrīpāda. If you read Śrīla Prabhupada's introduction to his Śrīpāda, he practically from the beginning of his introduction, he presents an entire, very long and thorough section, at least practically 30 pages long, called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I forget how he worded it, the original, the authentic preacher of Śrīpāda. So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he presented Śrīpāda, and he wrote an entire book to extract about 5,000 essential shlokas from Śrīpāda. You know what that's called? Yes. Bhagavat Arka Marichimala. A mala, a garland of shlokas. Yes? So our Gurudev, when he was in Hawaii, he lectured a little bit from that book. And he also talked about the introduction to the book. And in the introduction to the book, Srila Goswami Mahārāja, he pointed out that Swarup Goswami has commented that the Śrīmad Bhagavatam is really the glorification of 4 different personalities. Or is it 5? So first of all, Śrīmad Bhagavatam is the glorification of Krishna. It's the life story of Krishna. Second, glorification of who? What? Who? And he said it is also the glorification of Śrīmati Radharani. She's the actual object of the glorification of Śrīmati Radharani. This is a very deep, rasic understanding which even ordinary devotees are not going to be able to properly comprehend. And then he also described that the Śrīmad Bhagavatam is the glorification of Śrī Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the combination of Radha and Krishna. So, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he has given the entirety of the whole process, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayoja, the books of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura contain the essence of all Vedic knowledge. If someone just simply reads those books, they'll get everything they will get. Not only that, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, do you know that he wrote 2 different commentaries on the Padmanabha? Actually, I think even 3 I was reading the other day. Avadhūta, he also commented on Avadhūta's commentary. But he wrote a commentary that is included in our Guru days, Padmanabha, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Sagartha Vaishnava. So, the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's commentary and illumination on that. But also, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote a commentary on Baladev Vibhushan's commentary of Bhagavad. So many shastras, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Now, if we start to read Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's songs, which are probably Gadādhara who knows even the exact number of his songs that are in the Surabhi-kuñja, or approximate number. Do you know?
I think there is around 300 songs
In the
altogether. Not
Surabhi-kuñja?
in the Surabhi-kuñja, this altogether. Surabhi-kuñja, I don't know. We made a list at the back of the book with all the songs in it.
Well, you're talking about all the songs that Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote.
Yeah, and in the Surabhi-kuñja, I don't know how many.
So you're
there's a
saying that
list.
there's 300 songs approximately written by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura.
If I remember correctly, yeah.
In his songbooks and other articles, okay, then we go to Ṭhākura.
There's a list at the back of the book.
I know that.
I don't know.
I'm going to refer to that.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember.
So, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote songs in all the different sequences of when we do kirtan and we sing the krama, krama, it means the sequence. So, what is the first krama in that sequence? Guru Tattva. Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote so many songs on Guru Tattva. Then comes what? Vaishnava Tattva. Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura glorified Vaishnava so extensively in his songs. Then what comes next? Nityananda Tattva. So many songs written by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Of course, we cannot discount the songs written by Mahārāja Ṭhākura also, but we're focusing on Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura here. So then, next in the krama is Gaura Mahaprabhu. So many songs. Then Gaura Nityananda and also Gaura Mahaprabhu and his associated songs. Then Nam Kirtan, so many songs. Then we come to Krishna, so many songs. Then we come to Radha, so many songs. Then we come to Radha Krishna, so many songs. So like this. And Sharnavati, also in the back of our Surabhi-kuñja, we wrote songs expanding on Sharnavati, expanding on Sri Shastakam, expanding on Manasija, and so forth. So, but one thing about Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, we are so indebted to him that, first of all, he gave all of his songs, he gave all of his books. And he especially discovered the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the help of Śrīla, Vaishnava Cycle, and Sri Gadādhara Swami. Major accomplishment. It is said that these are the two topmost contributions of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda, his discovery of the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what's the second one? Is bringing Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Ṭhākura into this world. Is bringing Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Ṭhākura into this world. Yes. Just as Sri Avadhūta beseeched the Supreme Lord and called out loudly to please descend, Bhaktivinoda also saw the condition of the Lord at that time. And he saw that without Mahaprabhu, without Krishna sending one of their own to this world, then it will not be possible. You could understand that. So he prayed to Mahaprabhu to send such a person. And this prayer was really answered. And Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura took birth in Jagannath-puri, not far from the Jagannath temple, on the grand road where the Jagannath Rath Yatra comes, all the Rath Yatra carts. That's going to happen in 2 days. Okay? Day after tomorrow. Big day. Big day. Actually, it's the biggest day on the Earth planet because the biggest person on the Earth planet is Jagannath Dev. There's no one to compare with him. So he's the biggest VIP. He's the biggest king. He's the biggest Lord. And he's also the supreme, most merciful. Padmanabha Jagannath. So he's going to go on this beautiful excursion, saying goodbye to Lakshmi Devi for a few days. And he's going to ascend his Rath Yatra chariot. And after Baladev, Subhadra, Sudarshan, and then Jagannath comes at the end. We were just reading also the beautiful stories that Guru has in his Rath Yatra book. Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra is the title of the book, and the 3 descriptions of how Jagannath appeared in this world. So wonderful, so amazing. We have to immerse ourselves every year in that nectar. Otherwise, Rath Yatra rolls by without ever having really truly observed it and appreciated it. We gotta read Gurudev's quote from cover to cover, Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra. It's taken from his lectures in the Western countries. And I think some was added later. Some more was added by Gurudev to complete the book. So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Ṭhākura, he took birth in 1876, correct? 1876. And when he was born, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura noticed on his body all auspicious symptoms of the divine personality. He also had natural T-bone. He also had his umbilical cord, like the Brahmins had. So many other symptoms they also noticed. And Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura thought, he's well. So as he grew the first 4 months, his first grains, at the age of 6 months, the child was given his first grains. And by chance, does anyone know what those first grains were? Jagannath Mahārāja, really sweet earth. And the Rath Yatra festival took place same time. Because he was born, when was it, in January or February? So, so around that same time, when the Rath-yatra cart, the festival was happening, and the carts were brought, they stopped in front of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda's house, which is right on the Grand Road. And in those days, they used to offer respect, especially because Śrīla Bhaktivinoda at that time was the superintendent of the Jagannath temple, and he was in charge, and he was also a highly positioned person in the British government at that time. So they stopped, and then Śrīla Bhaktivinoda and sent his wife with the baby carried up onto the Jagannath cart. And at the moment when she placed the baby at the feet of Lord Jagannath, guess what happened? Jagannath dropped his huge garland around the baby. And everyone was ecstatic. Bhaktivinoda said, yes. Please do that. Then we gave him the name Vimala Prasad. Why? Because Vimala Devi is the personified energy of Lakshmi Devi, the consort of Lord Jagannath. Vimala Devi. So, by her mercy, Vimala Devi gave Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura to this world. Therefore, he was named Vimala Prasad. Later, when he became the initiated disciple of Srila Lord Mahārāja, by the urging of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, even though Lord Mahārāja was quite reluctant to accept, but by the urging of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, finally Srila Mahārāja accepted him, gave him Diksha, and he gave him the name what? Varshabhanavi Devi Doyata Das. So who is Varshabhanavi Devi? Huh? Who is Varshabhanavi Devi? The daughter of Vrishabhanu. Vrishabhanu Varshabhanavi Devi. That's Śrīmati Bhaktivinoda. And Doyata? Who is her Doyata? Who is the Doyata? Who is the dearmost beloved of the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj? Krishna. And who is the Das of that Krishna? Śrīla Prabhupada. So, when we speak of the glories of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda, it's absolutely compulsory that we also bring them together. Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura, Bhaktivinoda. Now, Bhaktivinoda, he started the vast preaching mission. But really, the role that he played was like an architect. The role that an architect plays when they want to build a huge skyscraper building. You cannot build a huge skyscraper building without the architectural plans, the exact measurements, all of that. Absolutely essential. That's the first step. And that architect has to be extremely knowledgeable. And only then, taking the drawings, the architectural drawings, a very qualified engineer has to study it. And then he has to determine how to begin to construct that is extremely difficult to construct building. And what do they have to do first? In order to construct such a building, they have to spend a lot of time doing what? Laying the foundation, but before they can even lay the entire foundation, they have to drive the pilings that go deep, deep, deep within the earth. The taller the building, the deeper the pilings have to go. Sometimes you look at these big buildings, I mean that one that's in Dubai, it's supposed to be the tallest right now. You look at this building, and it just goes up, and you think, how in the world can that thing stand without tipping over? Because they had to drive the piles down into the earth as deep as the building would be high. That's the only way. You can't take 1/4 size of the building with the piles. You can't take 1/2. You have to drive the piles all the way down. So the construction of any building requires an extremely expert engineer to do the construction. So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda was the architect. He gave the blueprint. He gave all the songs. He gave everything. The Shastras. He actually gave the Shastras. These Shastras. There's a beautiful Pranam mantra. Written by Śrīla Bhaktivinoda. It's similar to the Pranam mantra that we all know. The Pranam mantra we all know is Namo Bhaktivedānta, Satyananda Gaur Shakti Śrīpāda, Rupanaka Varayate. But Śrīla Bhaktivinoda wrote another complimentary Pranam mantra. He wrote Namo Bhaktivinodanam Shri Gaur Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastra Gyasam Rajyam Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhi. Ever heard that one? So what's the meaning? Namo Bhaktivinodanam Shri Gaur Shakti Swarupa. Same as in the other mantra. Because Śrīla Ṭhākura is said to be the incarnation of Gaur Shakti, which is Gadādhara. And it's not by chance that they perform their disappearance pastime on the same day. And who are the deities worshipped by Bhaktivinoda, just at Surabhi-kuñja, or Gadādhara. Gadādhara is the intimate worship of Gadādhara Pandit and Mahārāja, which is detailing the pathway of inner bhajan. The inner bhajan mood of Mahārāja, Antaranga bhajan. That is Gadādhara worship. And it's very secret. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda, I just read this morning, a very beautiful article where he's talking about Śrī Gadādhara and all his tattva and his glories. So, Gaur Shakti Swarupa. Next, Bhakti Shastra Gyasam Rajyam. You know what I mean?
The realm of the kingdom of
Bhakti Shastra Gyasam. Bhakti Shastra Gyasam means what? He is the complete knower. He is fully, complete, absorbed Shastra Yasam Rajyam. Jai Śrīpāda Bhaktivedānta Tridaṇḍi Mahārāja ki Jai. Bhakti Shastra Yasam Rajyam. The word Rajya means king. He is the king of all knowers of the Bhakti Shastras. And what is the king of all the Bhakti Shastras? Śrīpāda. Now the last line. Radha Rasa Sudha Niti. He is an ocean of the nectar of Radha Rasa. Radha Rasa Sudha Niti. So, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Mahārāja also wrote Dasadam, 10 shlokas, where he glorified Śrīla Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. It's called Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Viraha Dashakam. So to complete today's presentation, I want to read that. Okay?
Isn't there a recording of Srila Goswami explaining it to Srila Prabhupada?
Of who?
There's a recording of Srila Goswami explaining it to Srila Prabhupada.
Maybe?
I have it.
Oh, okay. Alright, so let's read it. Okay. So, a few days before the disappearance of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, he left here. He left Gadādhara a few days before his disappearance. And he went to his, to come to the Bhaktivedānta. That was his home in Gadādhara. And on June 23rd, 1914, on the disappearance day of Varsha Śrīla Gadādhara Pandit Goswami, in his Calcutta home, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura entered the midday pastimes of Śrīpāda and Avadhūta at Surabhi-kuñja. 6 years later, the worshipful Mata Ṭhākura, his wife Śrīpāda went to join him. So Śrīmad Bhaktivinoda Viraha Dasakam, these 10 verses, describing the feelings of separation from Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, written for the occasion of his disappearance day by Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Goswami in 1936. Paha Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Dvavimshatis Sama Dirga Dukha Varad Ashesha Vidavad Dukhi Krita Buriyam Jivanam Bhavujanma Punya Nivaha Krishna Mahimandale Avirbhava Kripam Chakara Javalan Shri Gaur Shakti Swayam. Alas, alas, my Guru, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, it is now 22 long years that the world has been burdened with the grief of your separation. You are the personification of Sri Gauranga's energy, and you mercifully appeared in this world, being attracted by many lifetimes of the living being's pious activities. In other words, the sukriti of all the jivas. Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura came being attracted by that, because now those jivas are eligible to receive Mahaprabhu's mercy. Verse 2. Dino ham chitra duskritirna bhavat ha Snan Anandani Brahmana Subhalam Lakthum Samargo Bhavam Kinfaudarya Gunat Tavati Yashasha Karunya Shakti Swayam Shri Gaur Mahaprabhu Prakatari Tasvishvam Saman Bhaktivinoda. Being most fallen and possessing nothing but sinful activity in my past, I have not been able to attain the joyful treasure of being bathed in the dust of the lotus feet, which brings all auspiciousness to the surrender. Even so, you are deservedly renowned for your magnanimity. You are the personification of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's compassionate powers who have appeared in this world in order to bestow upon it His divine blessings. He Deva Stavane Tavakilanam Te Virinchalayo Deva Vyartamano Raka Kimuvayam Madhyadama Kurmahe Etando Vidai Kadapyati Shayalankara Ityuchatam Shastreva Napadaye Kamitiya Gitam Mukundenicha. O Lord, the gods led by Brahma are frustrated when they endeavor to glorify your unlimited virtues. So what then can low-born humans such as we accomplish? This is no rhetorical exaggeration, as some scholars may claim, for even Mukunda himself has said the same to the gopis in the Bible. Dharmas charvakato yataiva satata yogaschava bogatmavo jnane shunyagatir japena tapasa khyati chikyam saivacha dane dhamvidatan radhavajane dusta vacharo yada buddhim buddhimatam videdaritada tatra mahan Krishna. You were sent by the Lord. When even the most intelligent people's wisdom was ruined through religious activities which only sought bodily pleasures, through a constant state of ignorance, in the yoga which meant sexual enjoyment as its goal, in the idea that the goal of knowledge is the void, in the desire to destroy individual consciousness through prayer and austerity, in arrogant pride and giving charity, and from evil practices spread in the name of Raga Anuga Bhajan. This verse is telling all the adverse qualities and all the difficult things that Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura had to face, all the deviations of that time. Vishvesmin kiranayar yata himapara sanjivayam noshadir nakshatrani charanjayam nijasudham vistarayam rajate sachchastrani chatoshayam buddhavanam sambodayam stetata nunam bhumi-tale subodayamiti klado sarva sarvatam. Just as in this universe, the moon gives life to the world's vegetation, revitalizes the constellations, and spreads its own nectar with its rays, so you too, your auspicious appearance on earth brought satisfaction to the Holy Scriptures, it brought joy to the intelligent, and it brought a great amount of ecstasy to the Vaishnavas. Surabhi-kuñja Ṭhākura ki jai. Lokanam Namaskara Granthanam Rachanai Satam Abhimataya Nana Vinaya Darshita Acharyai Kritapurvam Eva Kilaya Ramanujaryaya Budhaya Prema Bodhi Vidra Asya Bhavato Mahatmya Śrīpāda. Desiring the welfare of everyone in the world, you display the method of preaching devotion to the Supreme Lord through writing a variety of books which are appreciated by the saintly. The glorious achievements of all the previous acharyas, such as Mahārāja, etc., they cannot match yours, for you are the embodiment of the ocean of praying. Yadhamma kaludam chaiva nigame brahmeti samyayate yasyam shasya kalaya padukra vikaraya yogeshvara mrityate vaikunte paramukta bringacharano narayano yasmayam tam syamsi bhagavan swayam rasavabhu krishno bhavan tatprada. You came to give the Supreme Person, Krishna himself, whose body is the form of rasa, sacred rapture, whose effulgence of whose abode is known in the Vedas as Brahman, whose mere partial expansion is the goal of the great yogi's austere practices, who is the source of Narayan himself, whose lotus feet are surrounded by the most advanced bee-like liberated souls in Vaikuntha. Sarva Chintimaye Parakmarapure Goloka Vrindavane Śrīla Rasarangani Parikrita Saradhya Śrīpāda Vatsalya Virasaischa Sevita Tanor Madhurya Seva Sukam Nityam Yatravana Tanoti Bhavan Tathama Seva Prava. You bestowed service to the completely inconceivable divine abode of Gadādhara, which lies beyond the other spiritual worlds, where Radha, surrounded by her Sakhis, whose pleasure is in the transcendental nectar of the spiritual pastimes, joyfully, constantly serves in the mood of Madhurya Rasa to Śrīla, who is worshipped in the moods of parenthood, etc. Here comes the most famous of this ashram, of this dashram. In this verse, Sri Mahārāja is talking about how what Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura is giving is the essence of the essence of the essence, which was relished and tasted by all the previous personalities. This is the most well-known verse. It's the 9th shloka. Shri Gauram Tamam Swarupa Viditam Rupa Gajendra Nadripam Rupa Jai Pariyeshvitam Raghu Ganaya Asvaditam Sevitam Jiva Dhyar Abhirakshitam Shubha Shiva Brahmadi Samanitam Shri Radha Pada Sevanam Ritamaho Tadnanam Isho. O Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, you are perfectly competent to give the nectar of service to Sri Radha's feet, which was approved by Gauranga Mahaprabhu, which was understood by Sarvabhauma, which was adored by Sanatana Goswami, which was distributed by Sri Rupa Goswami, which was relished and enjoyed by Raghunath and the rest of Sri Rupa's followers, and which is respected by Shiva, Shiva, and Brahma. Śrīpāda padasevanamritamo tadvatum ishvara. You are the one who has given that treasure. Now the final verse. Kvam mandavatis tvativa patita kvatvam Gadādhara. Bo svamin privaya parada nichayo nunam tvaya shamyata. Yachevam karunadi he valamimam padavjamule bhavat sarvasvādi radhika dayatadasanam vane kamyata. I am a wicked-minded fallen soul, so far from you who purify the entire universe. O Master, please forgive me of all my offenses out of your great compassion. I beg you, O Ocean of Mercy, to grant me this boon, that I be included amongst the followers of Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Goswami Ṭhākura, for whom your lotus feet are everything. Lord Śrīla Satyananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki jai. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Śrīla Goswami Mahārāja ki jai. Śrīla Gadādhara Pandit Prabhu ki jai. Tadiya Tirobha Mahamahotsav Titi ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samavita Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. So I pay my obeisances to the lotus feet of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura with my very inadequate presentation of his glories, but I'm going to continue in the coming days because there's a lot more that I wanted to present, and so much of his own poetry, so much of his writings. I want to dive in the nectar of Bhaktivinoda and swim in that stream. So honor and prayer. Lord Premanandi. Panchakalpatu Vishra Kripasindu Vishra Patitam Vaishnava. Now we get the honor and privilege of hearing from a very expert student of our very learned, very deeply absorbed in bhajan, in this one of the topmost bhajan places of all that we've done in the whole world. And who could that possibly be but our Pujyapada, Bhaktivedānta Tridaṇḍi Mahārāja. His Ṭhākura today also. So we are most here Mahārāja was saying, to be in this place of Surabhi-kuñja, where our beloved Bhaktivinoda spent almost more than 20 years of his life. 20 years. He was living in a house here with his whole family. And this is where he wrote his most munificent contribution, the Gadādhara. We just heard these glorious prayers by Śrīpāda. Actually, as I was listening, I was thinking I would like to just sit all day and hear these prayers repeatedly again and again and again, because we could unpack them unlimitedly. It's described that Lord Brahma with his 4 mouths cannot glorify sufficiently the pastimes and activities of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda. What an incredible personality he was. And we are so blessed that we have come just a few short years after his living presence here. So everything is very fresh in his teachings. Today I was listening, we have a class in Delhi with 10 people. So they were all making presentations on Bhaktivinoda. It was very interesting that many of them were talking about the same topic, but with different understandings of it from what they read. So we know that history gets distorted very quickly to present us different facts. One person was saying, Bhaktivinoda's ashes were thrown in the Ganga by Lalita Prasad. But I have always understood that Śrīla Bhaktivinoda was very disappointed when he heard that Lalita Prasad had cremated his father and not placed him in the required samadhi. And he rushed the next day, brought those ashes back. And this is what is in Swananda Sutta today, underneath the murti of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda. So just an awareness how things can become distorted through time. But we are here in this particular time, and as much as is possible for us to enumerate these pastimes clearly, so that for posterity they won't be mixed up. But of course the essence, the Bhakti-sāra, is our principal focus. And this is what we are coming to be nourished by today. To hear his heart, to hear his extraordinary, is even not a big enough word to describe his munificence. In Mahārāja was speaking about recognizing that his Sukritis was at a stage with the conditioned souls where they could actually begin to hear the precepts of Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we know that there are these different types of Sukritis, Bhaktivedānta Sukriti, and we can accumulate these credits, but unless we take sadhu sangha, then Bhakti Devi herself will never manifest just by Sukriti. So Bhaktivinoda is bringing us this opportunity through his immense writings and bhajans in particular. My Śrīla relation to Bhaktivedānta Narayan Goswami Mahārāja has said many times that all of the siddhantas and tattvas are within the bhajans that we sing. If we sing them carefully with mood and bhav, everything is there to be revealed in the heart of the sadhu. We sing them carefully, appreciating them. So, just climbing on the back of Śrīla Mahārāja's beautiful rendition of Śrīla Mahārāja's offering to Śrīla Bhaktivinoda, just appreciating the depth with which Śrīla Mahārāja was able to perceive this glorious
is just this connection with Gadādhara Pandit, which he has proclaimed so much within his bhajans. If we read the Gita Mala, Gita Vali, Kalima Kalpatru, etc., Śrīla Bhaktivinoda is always concluding in the final chapters that if someone is not acknowledging the speciality of Sri Radhika, he doesn't want to even associate with him or see their faces. So this very strongly establishing why Mahaprabhu has come to give Raganuga Bhakti. And Raganuga Bhakti culminates in the worship of Sri Radhika. Without this focus on Sri Radhika, the greatest lover of Krishna, how can the sadhak go forward and progress? Utterly not possible. So we always looking to hear her glories. And today, I'm sure that Padmanabha has enumerated so many of the histories of Srila Bhaktivinoda. So I won't, so we don't have immense time because Bhaktivedānta Avadhūta has also requested me to speak. And it will open probably at 12:30 or 2, so I'm just going to make this presentation quite brief. But Gadādhara Pandit is our life and soul, and to enumerate something of his glories is most important today. I don't know how much Mahārāja has spoken.
I didn't speak about it. Only a tiny bit.
So there's the most wonderful verse that Surabhi-kuñja has written in his Gadādhara Astakam. Swabhakti yoga asanam sada praje vihara aripriya Swabhakti yoga. Sorry. This verse is describing how she is sporting in Vrindavan, wandering through all the beautiful holy places. But the identity of Gadādhara Pandit is absolutely emphatically substantiated by Swarup-Damodar, who is Lalita Sakhi herself. And this personality, because there have been other writings about her. I can remember when my Gurudev was with us, there was some contention that Gadādhara was what was left over, so to speak, like after Rukmini, her effulgence, and this is what was remaining. But actually, Gadādhara Das is described as the effulgence of Sri Radhika, not Gadādhara Pandit. Gadādhara Pandit is 1000% Sri Radhika, absolutely. So Sri Radhika's mood is Mamyabhava, but she's taken this mood of submissiveness towards Krishna in her form of Gadādhara. And this to me has always struck me as such a surrender on her part, that she should be in a totally submissive mood to Krishna. This is completely contrary to her nature. Her nature is Mamya, her nature is contrary, and she's taken this mood of being submissive in every way, even when Gadādhara is told by Mahaprabhu to return to Puri. When Mahaprabhu is leaving for his northern tour to catch Rupa and Sanatana at Ronkeli, then Gadādhara is accompanying him, but prior to that, Mahaprabhu has given him Ṭhākura, the pastime, sitting on Chakra, and Mahaprabhu is saying to Gadādhara, I want to give you my heart. And he moves some sand on the top knot of Ṭhākura appears, and then gradually his whole divine, beautiful face these deities are taken and placed in the garden, and Mahaprabhu is instructing Gadādhara, this is my Priyakam, you stay here and you worship, you take this sannyas and you worship here, only remaining, don't go anywhere else, Kshetra sannyas. So Mahaprabhu is telling Gadādhara when he's trying to call him, oh, you're breaking your Kshetra sannyas vow. And Gadādhara Pandit is replying, well, I don't care about that, I just want to be with you. But he is forced to return to worship Ṭhākura. So we can understand the condition of his heart at that time, because when he's told that, he faints. And Sarvabhaumacharya is there and takes him back to Ṭhākura in Puri. But throughout his time in Puri, Gadādhara Pandit is diligently worshipping Ṭhākura, but he never ever comes into the Gambhira with Swarupa and Rai Ramananda. This is Lalita Saki and Vishaka. And my Gurudevas describe that if Gadādhara came into the Gambhira, this would definitely compromise Mahaprabhu's meditation and absorption in this Vipralambha. It's also described that practically the entire 24 years of Mahaprabhu's pastimes in the renounced order, he almost never actually saw Krishna. There are one or two occasions, but for the most part, he's not having, it's not Mila, it's not Sambolu, it's all Vipralambha, the whole of the last 24 years of his life. There's maybe 2 occasions or 3 occasions when Mahaprabhu is saying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is here now. It says like this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but for the most part, Mahaprabhu is relishing that mood of intense separation that Sri Radhika experienced at Udapkyari, this mood of Mohan, Mahabhava, that she was for 100 years absorbed in this separation mood. So, if Gadādhara had come into the Gambhira when Mahaprabhu was in his deepest meditations, then this would have checked Mahaprabhu's complete absorption in the mood of Sri Radhika's love and affection for Sri Krishna. This would not have been compatible. My Gurudev gives the example of a young widow who has just lost her husband and the whole village comes to commiserate with her. But there's one other widow, young widow, who can't come and commiserate with her because she's just also lost her husband. So in this way, she can't come. So in the same way, Sri Radhika cannot come to the Gambhira. And it's almost like there's a theatrical curtain on the mountain there, the sand dune, that is between Ṭhākura and the Gambhira. So Radharani, she never comes there, but daily, Mahaprabhu, he visits the Ṭhākura temple and listens to Gadādhara reciting Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Gadādhara is given 3 principal instructions to follow. He's to worship always Ṭhākura. He's to speak from the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, to be the authority on Śrīmad Bhagavatam. We consider Bhagavatam, Bhaktivedānta Swami Ṭhākura, he has said that every page of the Bhagavatam is Krishna's footprint. And my Gurudev has said every letter of the Bhagavatam is representing Sri Radha. So who better a personality to describe the Bhagavatam than Sri Radha? So Mahaprabhu would go with great relish daily and listen to those recitations. It's even described, he heard hundreds of times the recitation of Ṭhākura Mahārāja, Chitraketu, all these personalities from the first 9 cantos. It wasn't just the Śrīla that he was absorbed in listening to. All the cantos culminate in the 10th canto. So Mahaprabhu was relishing absolutely everything there. And then he would go back at night with Śrīpāda and Raghunatha and remember all that he heard in the day there and be performing his bhajan through the night in the Gambhira. So this was his daily connection with Gadādhara physically. Of course, internally, that's another dynamic altogether. But we see the descriptions of the Radhayatra festival is that Gadādhara is not prominently spoken about there. He also takes somewhat of a back seat, actually, for those prominent pastimes, because he is withholding his real mood towards Krishna. We understand that Krishna, he only manifests to taste the moods of the Ashraya. Shiraleya Pranaya Mahima Kidrishavaraya Svayena Buddha Nagalima Kidrishavaraya Sokyam Kasyam Mahāraja Kidrishavaraya. That Bhavaya Samajni Sachidarva Sindhu Pranaya. He's only come to taste these 3 desires: the glories of Radha's love, the sweetness of her qualities, and the happiness that she feels by receiving the sweetness of his love. So this is his intention, this is his purpose. And if Radhika is present, then he won't be able to fulfill that inner intention so easily without Radhika being present there. So Gadādhara is usually in a background mood, or Gadādhara. So Gadādhara, his glories are so extensive. When Mahaprabhu leaves this world, very quickly, Gadādhara Pandit begins to lose his strength physically, materially. But he's described in the Bhaktivedānta that he's only remaining in his body so that he can speak to Śrīvāsacārya. Śrīvāsacārya is the most prominent personality in our life. So Gadādhara is waiting to give him direct shiksha through coming to see him. And so he's maintaining his life there, so just for that purpose, just see Śrīvāsacārya. So there are many wonderful pastimes of Gadādhara Pandit that we remember today in glorification of his disappearance. He appears on the Astami, and it's interesting that she leads on the Astami of the waxing and waning moons. But Mahaprabhu, he appears on the Purnima, the 2 half moons coming together, as the complete moon of Sri Gauraj Chandra. So this is also part of our memory today. So considering all these topics, and today, this momentous occasion of their disappearance days together. So I'm not going to speak much more, and I'm hoping that Avadhūta Mahārāja requested to have some time before the party. If anyone would like to ask me anything at all about anything, to open up a little bit and discuss. Mahārāja, you have anything? Avadhūta Mahārāja, are you there, please? Avadhūta Mahārāja, you requested some time to come and speak this morning, and I've left some time for you. So, yes, he's coming back.
Can you say something about the daily activities of Bhaktivinoda?
Wonderful question. Let me just do that for 2 minutes then. Yes, his daily schedule I'm always tremendously inspired by. it's described that he would take his rest between 7 and 8, and then he would rise at around 10:30, light his oil lamp, and begin his writings. And he would carry on his writings through until approximately 3 o'clock. And then he would take a short nap, it's described, about 15 minutes, and then he would rise, wash his face, and then he would sit down to honor his mother and chant his Harinam through till about 7 in the morning. Then after 7, then he would take care of any correspondence he had to. He would get obviously many mails and so on. So he'd take care of that. And at 7:30, he'd meet with anyone who had come to see him. Remember, this is in Puri. This is when he had so many children, his material responsibilities, deputy magistrate, etc. So then he would meet with anyone between 8 o'clock and about 8:30. And then again he would rest for about 15 minutes. Then he would rise again, bathe, etc., perform his ablutions and so on. And then he would take 2 rotis and a quart glass of hot milk for his breakfast. And then he would begin carrying on writing again. And at 5 to 10, it's described, a carriage would come to the gate, and he would put on all his high court clothes, and then put on his outfit to go to the court. And then he would go to the place described that he would be able to deal with about 50 cases a day. And his English colleagues were just astonished that he could cover so many cases in such a short amount of time. But he could do this because he had complete vision of this person. Was he guilty, honest, and he knew instantly. He didn't have to think a lot about it. And he could write up the reports, etc., in a very brief space of time. And then he would come home at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. He would take another 2 chapatis and some vegetable sabji, and then he would have a rest for about 15-20 minutes. He must have known about power naps. That must be what he was actually doing.
Power naps.
Power naps.
Power naps.
So, and then he would rise again, then he would take his monologue again in the middle of the day. And then at 4 o'clock, he would return to the courthouse for another 2 or sometimes 3 hours to complete the day's work in the court. And he would again return 6 o'clock. And then he would bathe again, take another meal. And it's described that he drinks, I think it's almost 3/4 of a liter of milk, it seems, per day. And maybe 6 rotis per day. So he's not eating a lot, but he's drinking the milk. And taking some vegetable, and having these brief rests or naps in the day. But his day was 24/7 packed with engagements. How could anyone else have the energy to write so many books, so many documents, so many essays, unless he was engaged fully? So he maximized his human birth only for pleasing his beloved Śrīpāda. He's come voluntarily, and he's come to serve her. So his time is always, he's concerned, he would carry a pocket watch, and always be very concerned with his time, progress, the way it's going. So that's what I understand about this very schedule, which is very inspiring.
One last question. The train. Why did the Britishers make a train for him to go to work?
Why what?
They made a train for him to go to work.
Because they honored him so much in those last days, but that train, I don't know how much it was functioning. It stops at Surabhi-kuñja today. There's actually talk in the government of reopening that line. They came to Surabhi-kuñja last year and told them they had to break down the kutia of Bhaktivinoda, Bhaktivinoda, they have to break that curfew down to allow the train to come through. But I think the prayers of the devotees there have halted that enterprise. So now our dear Avadhūta Mahārāja is going to glorify Śrīla Bhaktivinoda. Avadhūta Mahārāja, I understand he's been serving here since 1982, I believe. His Guru Mahārāja, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda, he took sannyas from Bhaktivedānta in 1982. And Avadhūta Mahārāja was here with the Pujari, who's called Ananta Krishna, and a couple of the ladies here, and his mother and father. And they're all Shishyas of Bhaktimalaya Giri Mahārāja. So they've all been living here approximately since that Bhaktimalaya Giri Mahārāja left this world in 2002. And since that time, Avadhūta Mahārāja has been building this temple practically single-handedly, and all the guest houses and so on, all the facilities, and a huge garden, and look up to the house, and do all these things more or less alone, but with the help of some of the local residents. So it's a great service that he's doing in honor to Śrīla Bhaktivinoda. If this seva hadn't been done, how could we come here comfortably and glorify Śrīla Bhaktivinoda today? So we're eternally grateful to Avadhūta Mahārāja for his immense seva over those years. I'm sure it would have been easy putting up all that practically alone. So Avadhūta Mahārāja, Bhaktivedānta Avadhūta Mahārāja was given sannyas by my beloved Gurudev Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Narayana Swami Mahārāja. I'm not sure of the date. What was the date of that year? 2002. Well, that was the same year that your Gurudev left this world. Yeah. So this is the history that we need to capture so it doesn't get interpolated in the future. Okay, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gadādhara Pandit ki jai, Surabhi-kuñja ki jai, Vaishnavas ki jai, Bhaktivinoda Hari Hari Bol, Śrīpāda Bhaktivinoda Vaishnava.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nijajan, Radharani's Nijajan, ছিলেন তিনি আজকে দিতে তিনি অপ্রকট লীলা প্রকাশ করেছেন।
So today is a day of great bliss and yet of great separation, because today we are observing the miracle also of Ṭhākura, who is sent here by orders of the divine Śrīpāda to grace the conditioned devas.
Bhaktivedānta ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনি আজকে এই শুভ তিথিতে অর্থাৎ আজ রাধারানীর বিবাহ তিথি অপ্রকট তিথি গদাধর পণ্ডিত যিনি গৌর শক্তি রাধারানীর এই বিবাহ তিথিতে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনিও আজ তিরোভাব প্রকাশ করেছেন। এর থেকে বোঝা যায় ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরকে বলেছেন আমি কমলা মঞ্জরি, অর্থাৎ তিনি যে রাধারানীর প্রিয়জন নির্জন, তাই রাধারানীর বিবাহ তিথিতে রাধারানী তাকে তার নামে নিত্য সেবায় নিয়ে গিয়েছেন।
Today also being the disappearance of Śrīpāda, who is none different from Śrīmati Radharani, we can understand that Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, who has himself said that I am Padmanabha, is a very dear and intimate servant of Śrīmati Radharani.
Bhaktivinoda ঠাকুর মহাশয় 1838 সালে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় নদিয়া জেলার পীরনগর মাতুল বাড়িতে জন্মগ্রহণ করেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় ছোটবেলা থেকেই রামায়ণ মহাভারত পড়তেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনি শৈশবকাল বীরনগরে অতিবাহিত করে একটু বড় হতেই কলকাতায় মেষমশার বাড়িতে চলে যান। সেখানে গিয়ে তিনি উচ্চ শিক্ষা শুরু করেন।
So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura appeared in Gadādhara in Nadia district, and from his very, very early age, he very diligently studied Mahārāja and Tridaṇḍi. And as he got older, he moved to his maternal aunt's house and continued with his higher studies.
তৎকালীন সময়ে যে উচ্চ শিক্ষক ছিলেন, যিনি বিদ্যার সাগর উপাধি দিয়েছিলেন, সেই বিদ্যার সাগর ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয়কে পড়াশুনো করাতেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় একদিন এক ভক্তের বাড়িতে মহাভারত পড়ার জন্য গিয়েছিলেন। ঈশ্বরচন্দ্র বিদ্যাসাগরের সঙ্গে দেখা হলো। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয়কে জিজ্ঞাসা করলেন, কেদারনাথ, আগামী দিন তোমার পরীক্ষা আছে, তুমি আজকে মহাভারত পড়তে যাচ্ছ, পরীক্ষা ঠিক হবে তো? বলে আপনার কৃপাতে পরীক্ষা খুব ভালো। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনি যখন পরীক্ষা দিলেন, পরের দিন রেজাল্ট বেরিয়ে আসে, সেই বছর খুব ভালো নম্বর পেয়েছিলেন এবং ঈশ্বরচন্দ্র বিদ্যাসাগর তখন বলেছিলেন যে তোমাকে এই সাগর উপাধি দিলে ভালো হতো, আমাকে নাম দিই বিদ্যাসাগর। তুমি পারমার্থিক শিক্ষা এবং জাগতিক শিক্ষা, তুমি শিক্ষায় তুমি পারঙ্গত পণ্ডিত।
So during his higher studies, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura was a contemporary of Sri Ishwarchandra Vidyasakar, a very famous, learned person of Bengal. So one day Ishwarchandra came to the house of Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and he was studying Mahārāja. And he asked him, oh, tomorrow you have an exam, but you are studying Mahārāja. How will you do in that exam? But Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura didn't have any concern about this. extremely well. And so later Ishwar Vidyasāgar, who was given the name Vidyasāgar due to his learning, he said, actually, I have this name, but you are the true Vidyasāgar. You are a great ocean of wisdom.
Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Mahārāja, তিনি অল্প বয়সে পিতাকে হারিয়েছিলেন, তিনি গল্প রয়েছেন। তাই ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয়কে খুব তাড়াতাড়ি ঈশ্বরচন্দ্র বিদ্যাসাগর তখন তাকে মেদিনীপুরের একটা হাই স্কুলে ইংরেজি স্কুলে হেড মাস্টার পদে চাকরি দিয়েছিলেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর সেখানে কিছুদিন চাকরি করেছিলেন। এখন সেখানে তার বাড়ি রয়েছে, জায়গাটির নাম মেদিনীপুর বালিমাই। সেখানে 70 বিঘা জমি নিয়ে তার বাড়ি রয়েছে। এখন চৈতন্যমূর্তি সেটা দেখাশোনা করেন।
So at a very young age, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda's father left this world, so very quickly he had to take on the responsibility of maintaining the household. So he was appointed by Vidyasāgar as the headmaster of a high school in Medinipur. So even today his house is there in that area in Medinipur.
Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Mahārāja তারপরে তিনি ওইখান থেকে আরেকটু ভালো চাকরি করবার জন্য উড়িষ্যায় কটকে চলে গেলেন। সেখানে গিয়ে তিনি উচ্চ ডেপুটি ম্যাজিস্ট্রেটের পদে চাকরি পেয়েছিলেন। সেখানে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর জগন্নাথ মন্দিরে প্রতিদিন যেতেন, জগন্নাথ দেবের দর্শন করে তার কাছে প্রার্থনা করতেন। জগতের অধিকাংশ শিক্ষক শ্রেণী জড় কথা, অপরাবিদ্যার কথা বলছে, ভাগবত শিক্ষার কথা কেউ বলছে। আমার এমন একটি সুসন্তান দাও যিনি ভাগবতের কথা, চৈতন্য মহাপ্রভুর কথা জগতে প্রচার করবে। তাই ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর পেয়েছিলেন ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত সরস্বতী গোস্বামী ঠাকুর প্রভুপাদকে। ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত সরস্বতী ঠাকুর অসাধারণ পণ্ডিত ব্যক্তি ছিলেন। তাহার গৃহ শিক্ষক ছিল আশুতোষ মুখোপাধ্যায়। আশুতোষ মুখোপাধ্যায় ছিলেন তৎকালীন সময়ের খুব উচ্চ শিক্ষক, বাংলার বাক তাকে বলা হতো। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় যে উপদেশগুলি করেছিলেন ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত প্রভুপাদ তিনি সেটা অক্ষরে অক্ষরে পালন করে গিয়েছেন। তাই আমরা দেখতে পাই যে সুখদেব গোস্বামী আর ব্যাসদেব যেমন মহাভারত শ্রীমদ্ ভাগবত লিখেছেন, প্রচার করার জন্য দিয়েছিলেন সুখদেব গোস্বামীকে, ঠিক ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর পেয়েছেন ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত সরস্বতী গোস্বামী ঠাকুর প্রভুপাদকে অটল ব্রহ্মচর্য পালন করে তিনি জগতে গৌর কথা প্রচার করে দিয়েছেন।
So later, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura received an opportunity for better employment and engagement in Puri, where he worked in the as a magistrate there. And every day he would go to the Jagannath temple and pray that in this world, amongst educators, almost all of them are teaching material knowledge. But Lord, please give me an offspring who will be such an educator that they will teach the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the entire world. So, indeed, Sri Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura was such a son, and he not only learned but also practiced every single stanza and every single letter of the teachings of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura, such that just as Sri Vyasadeva had taught Sukadeva Goswami the Bhagavad, in the same way, Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura imbibed the entire teachings of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura.
ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় পুরীতে থাকাকালীন তিনি কিছু বাবাজিদের সঙ্গে ওঠা বসা করেছিলেন, কিন্তু বাবাজি বাড়ির তাদের ব্যবহার আচরণ ভালো লাগে না। তারপরে তাদের সঙ্গ ত্যাগ করে দিলেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ চিন্তা করলেন চৈতন্য মহাপ্রভুর কিছু কথা জানতে হবে। তখন তিনি 1882 সালে নদিয়া জেলা শাসক হয়ে চলে আসেন কৃষ্ণনগরে। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর তিনি অনেক পরিশ্রম করে চৈতন্য চরিতামৃত সংগ্রহ করলেন। দীর্ঘ 5 বছর ধরে তিনি সেবককে পাঠিয়ে দিয়ে বিভিন্ন প্রতিষ্ঠানে বাবাজিদের কাছে ঘুরে বিভিন্ন জায়গা থেকে তিনি সেই কপি তুলে নিয়ে আসেন এবং আজ আমরা খুব সুন্দরভাবে সহজে সেই চৈতন্য মহাপ্রভুর কথা চৈতন্য চরিতামৃতকে জানতে পারছি।
So while Srila Ṭhākura was in Puri, he had the association of some Babaji. However, unfortunately, he was quite dissatisfied by their practices and by their philosophical conclusions. However, sometime later he was appointed in Krishnanagar, and when he was here, he was seeking how to become very deeply absorbed in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in particular was searching for a copy of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. However, this was not so easy. It was actually quite an ordeal that took 5 years of sending messengers and so on and so forth to various places in search of a copy of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So by his great endeavor, now today we all have this wonderful Shastra available to us, certainly by his mercy.
ভক্তিবিনোদ মহাশয় যখন পুরীতে ছিলেন একটা ঘটনা হয়েছিল। ঋষিকিশন নামের যোগী তিনি ভগবানের অবতার বলতেন, তিনি নিজেই ভগবান বলতেন। তাকেও ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর জেলে ভরে দিয়েছিলেন। তারপর তাকে যোগী তার যোগ শক্তির প্রভাবে বাড়ির সকলকে জ্বরে ফেলে দিয়েছিলেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় জগন্নাথকে বলছেন, প্রভু তোমাকে অবজ্ঞা করে সাধারণ জীব, এটা আমার কষ্ট হয়, তুমি আমাকে রক্ষা করবে। তা ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর তার মনে চলে আসলো যোগীদের জটার মধ্যে শক্তি থাকে, তো যে জটা ফেলে দিয়েছিলেন। তারপরে সেই যোগী ঋষিকিশন তিনি জেলের মধ্যে আত্মহত্যা করে মারা গিয়েছিলেন। তার ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর তিনি কখনো অপসম্প্রদায়কে তিনি প্রশ্রয় দেন নাই। তিনি সবসময় অপসম্প্রদায়ের বিরুদ্ধে বিচার করেছেন। আমাদের ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় হচ্ছেন শুদ্ধ ভক্তির ধারার বলিয়ন। শুদ্ধ ভক্তির ধারাকে তিনি খরস্রোতার সঙ্গে প্রবাহিত করেছেন, যেটা অপসম্প্রদায়কে আউল সম্প্রদায়কে দুলিশ্বর করে দিয়েছেন। তা ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর তিনি আমাদের প্রতি কৃপা বর্ষণ করুন, যেন তার ভক্তির ধারাতে এসে তার শিক্ষা তার উপদেশকে যেন আমরা বিন্দুমাত্র ধারণ করতে পারি, তবে আমাদের এই জীবনটা পবিত্র হবে, ধন্য হবে।
So there's also a very famous incident of a great powerful yogi who was Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura encountered in the courtroom, who had used his yogic powers to cause everyone in Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's household to become sick and come down with a very terrible fever. However, Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura was not at all dissuaded by this, and he realized very quickly that if he cut off the locks of the yogi, which is where they store their power, that he would no longer have any power. So he very quickly did that, and very soon the yogi spent his time in jail and committed suicide there. So you see that Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura would never have any regard, would never give any time to any upper sampradayas. He very quickly sent them on their way, purified and will become very fortunate.
Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura মহাশয়ের বহুমুখী প্রতিভা। তিনি প্রথম জীবনে কিছু সাহিত্য লিখেছিলেন, কবিতা লিখেছিলেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয়ের অনেক অনন্ত গ্রন্থ তার মধ্যে রয়েছে। তিনি সমাজ সংস্কারক ছিলেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনি দেখলেন যে জড়জগতে মানুষের একমাত্র শান্তির পথ হচ্ছে চৈতন্য মহাপুরুষ শিক্ষাকে ঘরে ঘরে প্রচার করা। তাই ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় বলেছিলেন যে ঘরে ঘরে কি করতে হবে না, পত্রিকা পাঠাতে হবে। তাই বিভিন্ন সাপ্তাহিক, দৈনিক, প্রাক্ষিক, মাসিক, গৌড়ীয় পত্রিকা পাঠানোর ব্যবস্থা করতে বলেছিলেন ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত প্রভুপাদকে। তা ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তিনি আমাদের ধাম দিয়েছেন, তিনি আমাদের জম দিয়েছেন, ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত প্রভুপাদকে দিয়েছেন। তিনি আমাদের শুদ্ধ রূপ রঘুনাথের যে কথা জগতে আমাদেরকে শিক্ষা দিয়েছেন। অতএব তার যে দয়া, তার যে কৃপা, অনন্ত দয়া ভূরিদা ভূরিদা যেন।
So Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura is endowed with unlimited qualities. Among those, compassion and grace. In his consideration of how to benefit the jivas, he made all sorts of arrangements for printing various magazines and distributing them house to house. He gave us Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Ṭhākura. He gave us the teachings of Guru Raghunath. He gave us everything. He made everything accessible to us.
আজকে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর মহাশয় তার তিরোধান তিথি। তার অনেক গুণ রয়েছে, তার কথা বলা আমার সেই শক্তি নাই। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর সপ্তম গোস্বামী। তিনি জগতে অনেক কাজ করেছেন, আমাদের জন্য অনেক শ্রম দিয়েছেন। তিনি নবদ্বীপ ধামে এসে দেখলেন নবদ্বীপে ধামবাসী কেউ শুদ্ধভাবে গৌর আরাধনা করে না। নদিয়া জেলাতে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর 400 নামমাত্র কেন্দ্র স্থাপনা করে ঘরে ঘরে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর চৈতন্য মহাপ্রভুর শুদ্ধ শিক্ষা উপদেশকে প্রচার করেছেন। তাই ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের যে কত আমাদের প্রতি কৃপা করেছেন, নিজের জীবনকে যে আমাদের জন্য কত অতিবাহিত করে দিয়েছেন, আজ আমরা ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের বসতি বাড়িতে বসেই ভগত বিনোদ রই সুরভি-কুঞ্জে আরতি দর্শনে প্রেমসুখ কুঞ্জে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের বসতি বাড়িতে বসে, যেখানে বসে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর কত গ্রন্থ লিখেছেন, শরণাগতি, চৈতন্য চরিতামৃতের বিশ্লেষণ, অমৃত প্রভাবাস্য, জৈবা ধর্ম, কত গান তিনি রচনা করেছেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর তিনি এই নবদ্বীপ মন্ডল পরিক্রমা করার জন্য ভক্তি সিদ্ধান্ত প্রভুপাদকে নির্দেশ দিয়েছিলেন, যত শীঘ্র পারো নবদ্বীপ মন্ডল পরিক্রমা করার ব্যবস্থা করো, নয় প্রকার ভক্তি অঙ্গ দিয়ে নবদ্বীপ ধাম তৈরি। নবদ্বীপ মন্ডল পরিক্রমা দিলে তাদের মধ্যে অবশ্যই একদিন কৃষ্ণ নামে রুচি আসবে। তাই এই নবদ্বীপ ধাম পরিক্রমা করে জোর দিয়েছিলেন, নামের উপর জোর দিয়েছিলেন। প্রতিদিন 1 লক্ষ করে নাম জপ করতেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর বলেছেন যে সরলতা, সত্যবাদী, আনুগত্য ছাড়া কখনো বৈষ্ণব হতে পারবে না। আমাদের অনেক উপদেশ দিয়েছেন ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর, একদিনে বলা সম্ভব নয়। আমরা প্রতিদিনই যে বলতে থাকি, তবু তার গুণমহিমা বর্ণন করে শেষ করতে পারব না। আমরা আজ তার কাছে এটাই প্রার্থনা করব, তিনি যে ভাব দেবার জন্য আমাদের কাছে এসেছিলেন, আমরা সেই ভাবটা যেন ধারণ করতে পারি, পালন করতে পারি, লাভ করতে পারি।
So it's important to adequately glorify Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. He's done so much for advancing the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's done so much here in Gaura-manda. He established over 400 Namapatas. Here we are in his very own home, where he illuminated so many granthas. He wrote Sharanagati, he wrote Mahārāja and has benefited so many jivas by giving them a taste for Harinam. It's truly impossible to reach the end of his glories even every day if we describe his glories. We'll never reach the end of that. So we're praying for his mercy that the power in his heart, his moods may come into our hearts.
আজকে এই সুন্দর তিথিতে জানকী মাতাজি তিনি আমাকে বলেছিলেন, মহারাজ শুধু ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের জীবনী তার লেখা সুন্দর কীর্তনগুলি হবে, আর আমরা এখানে সবাই প্রসাদের ব্যবস্থা করব। তাই জানকী মাতাজি আজকে এই সুন্দর অনুষ্ঠানের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন, প্রসাদের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন। ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের বিশেষ কৃপা নেওয়ার সুন্দর আজকে একটা দিন। যেমন হরিদাস ঠাকুরকে মহাপ্রভু নিজে হস্ত করে স্নান করিয়েছেন, সমাধি দিয়েছেন, আর বলেছেন আজকে এই তিথিতে যারা উপস্থিত আছেন প্রত্যেকেই কৃষ্ণ প্রেম, কৃষ্ণ ভক্তি লাভ করতে পারবে। তার ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের এই সুন্দর তিথিতে জানকী মাতাজি যে সবাইকে আহ্বান করেছেন, তা আমরা সবাই তার কৃপায় আমরা কিছু ভক্তিবিনোদের আশীর্বাদ লাভ করতে পারব। আজকে এইখানে সমাপ্ত রাখি। পঞ্চাকল্পতরুশ্চ কৃপা সিন্ধু পরিব্রজ পতিতানাং কৃষ্ণ নমঃ।
So the Maharaj showing his special appreciation to Janaki Devi, who has been a big inspiration on putting this program on today. And just as at the time when Mahaprabhu put Ṭhākura into Samadhi and said that anyone who observes this disappearance day will be blessed with Krishna prem, so in the same way certainly will several of the devotees engaged here be blessed with the mercy of your now we'll start Aarti, and then everyone will take something.
I'm Surabhi. Would you like to lead Aarti? Yeah.
जय श्री श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री भक्तिविनोदा महाशय की जय, श्री गदाधर जय की जय, श्री निताय श्री जय सच्चिदानंद गौर हरि की जय, राधा मोहन की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।